So 295 today. We're talking about some standouts in yesterday's matchup between Toronto and Ottawa. Game where Ottawa they found themselves back into the series somehow yet again. They were down 3-0 and they're starting to make a comeback. And so when I was watching this game and it was just two shorthanded goals and the Leafs are playing at home. And we've seen this story year in and year out with the Leafs. It's just they continue to lose in the first round, continue to not produce in the playoffs, and all this storyline around them and stuff like that. And it just seems like this year they're trending in that direction once again. They still have a stranglehold on the series right now. They're still up 3-2 in the series. But Ottawa has more momentum right now, I would say, because they've won the last two games and they've started to make a push. They've started to create more momentum in their favor, and they've just been able to generate a little bit more offensively as well, starting with their top guys. And Tim Slutza and Brady Tkachuk, of course, you need those two guys to produce, and if you want to keep your series alive and keep your season alive. So those two guys were just extremely noticeable, and obviously 3 points for each. And I thought Brady Tkachuk was really noticeable off the rush in the ozone, being able to extend possessions, being able to pivot off pressure and turn up the walls, and just be able to generate offense and generate open space favorably. I think Tim Stützle does this in more of a dynamic manner where he's able to use his weight shifts and his ability to use his pivots to be able to get around pressure and be able to maneuver guys pretty easily. And he does a pretty good job of doing this regularly. I really enjoy watching him and how he's able to compete and how he's able to battle on and off the puck. And just a guy you can rely upon in many different situations, offensively, defensively, has become more of a lethal threat and more of a dynamic threat and transition and attack it through open ice through the middle lanes. And I think he's a guy you can rely upon in every single situation now, especially come playoff time. And he's started to ramp it up a little bit more offensively throughout the back half of this series so far, which has been really good to see. Same with Brady Tkachuk. And another guy who was in that mix was Dylan Cousins, and I really like Dylan Cousins. The fit in Ottawa for him has been terrific so far. He's been able to be similar to Stützle in that sense, where he can generate and transition, use his speed, use his wheels, use his skating, be able to cut back and be able to evade pressure and stuff like that. I think where Cousins separates himself a little bit is in his shot and how he's able to release pucks and how he's able to get velocity on the puck, and does a great job of this regularly. And very effective at being able to use that shot power and be able to use that accuracy, and just a reliable all-around player, a very toolsy all-around player who has continued to showcase his skill offensively and has continued to get better in Ottawa. I think that was a great trade. And trading away Josh Norris, who's more injury prone, for a guy like Dylan Cousins, who is still a really good, relatively young top nine. I would say more of a top nine forward right now. I know at his best he's more of a top six guy and more of a top line guy. I would say this season, though, he was more of a top nine winger than anything else. Definitely not a top six player. I would say throughout the back half of the season with Ottawa, he turned into more of a top six player. Just the way he played both at the center position and on the wing, how he's able to drive play at both positions, and how he's able to staple himself and assert himself up ice. And just was generating a lot and was very active all across the board, which was really nice to see. And then Claude Giroux, who quietly effective, I would say. You don't notice a ton of him anymore at this stage in his career, but he's still effective. He's still generating offensively, and he still can be relied upon in a lot of key situations. So you can have him out there on the power play, and you can have him out there on 5-on-5, and you can move him up and down your top nine. There's a lot of versatility to his game in that sense. As for Toronto's side, I didn't notice too many guys. I think defensively, guys like Brandon Carlo and Simon Benoit were effective. But offensively, they just really had nothing going. I think one of their most productive players, even though he didn't get any points in this game, was Matthew Nyes. The way he's able to use his puck protection, his power, his skill, his finesse, that type of thing. I think when you talk about the core four, yes, there's the core four of Tavares, there's Marner, there's Matthews, and Nylander. I think you could argue Matthew Nyes has turned that into more of a core five. I think Matthew Nyes fits that and fills that void a little bit, which is really good to see. I think he brings something that a lot of the other players don't bring as a power forward. And again, using that puck protection along the walls, using his frame, using his playmaking skills and tight, those type of things. He's been able to do a lot of that throughout the playoffs so far. But I think he's elevated his game to another level this year too. And I think come next year we're going to see him evolve even more. He's just continued to get better, and he was by far to me the most impressive player on the Leaf side this game. Outside of that, like Nylander, Matthews had chances, but Nylander is kind of invisible. Marner was a little bit invisible. Same with Tavares. I noticed Tavares a little bit here and there throughout the middle stages of the game. I think if you're talking most noticeable of those guys, I would say Matthews. But again, they didn't really do much for the most part. And it was Matthew and Ice who was creating a lot of havoc around the net, a lot of traffic around the net. And like he usually does, I think he's been the most consistent player for them throughout the series on the Leaf side. Just the way he's been able to play game in and game out. I think you're getting a guy who can be reliable in all situations and a guy who can be reliable at the net from the power play. He's reliable in transition. He's reliable carrying the pucks through in transition, also in the ozone, extending possession there, and just a reliably all faceted type of player who can play every single component of the game really well.